What's up, y'all? Rich's Method, man. All right, so on my last live, I told you guys I'll be doing a little short series called the podcast, right? Rich's Method Podcast. I'm gonna do it as lives, but I don't really care how many people are in the room at the time when I do it. However, uh, little inspiration when I do these lives, right? When I do these podcasts, or add it to my podcast section. So that's a new section I'm starting, right? I was actually watching a channel that I've watched for a couple of years, so I got a shout out Vibing with Fred. Now, about 3 years ago in the Dominican Republic in Sosua, I did a video. I did two videos actually. One was a 2 for 1 sisters. This is where I set up a date with one girl where she showed up with somebody else to my house. But I also did another one where I told you guys about a Haitian girl who had come and met me from the other side of Cabarete or a little beyond that and meet me in Sosua. But also a girl who was a hairdresser that owned a shop in Sosua, who I set up a date with. I was at the beach in Sosua, and she just showed up, and she didn't show up alone. The point about this is this: a lot of guys know they complain that in the United States, they pretty much getting the girls who are like, you know, she wondering where her next meal coming from, or she needs to go to a nice restaurant somewhere. So she basically just goes online and then uses a guy to basically pay for what she can't afford to pay. And dudes are like, well, I'm spending $200-300 on a date. I'm getting the vibe that the woman really ain't interested in me, and they realize they're just being used for food. Now, fellas, I know a lot of you guys are all being sold the dream that if you leave the United States, all of a sudden a lot of these issues gonna go away. Yes and no. The attitudes might be different. The amount of money that you're spending, if you're spending US dollars and you convert it over in these different countries, might be different. But you still got to be careful because, man, women are women no matter where you go. The attitudes might be different, right? So just hear me out, guys. A little bit of the attitude might be different. But if you get the wrong ones, the thought process can be similar, right? The way they make you feel might be a little different. The way they might speak to you might be a little different. But if the intent is still bad intent, it could still happen to you. And you're gonna feel the same way as if you feel like a girl, suggests a couple of places. Like, all right, I'm gonna give you an American example. Years ago, I'm living near Miami, right? And I think at that time I had broken up with my ex, and I started talking to this one girl. Well, this girl, she was doing okay, and this was also the surprise because it wasn't like she was doing bad in life, right? This girl, unbeknownst to me at the time, actually, I found out a little later. This girl actually, well, I found out during the courting process. She kept suggesting, let's go to, I'm going to name the names to promote the place in Miami, but let's just say it's a well-known steakhouse in Miami. And she keeps saying, like, she kept bringing it up, or not directly asking me that that's where she wants to go. She just comes like asking me if I had been there before, just in, conversation. But when we first started to like really say, all right, we can go out somewhere. I'll tell you honestly, guys. Normally, I don't let a woman suggest any of the places. I don't ask her where she wants to go. Even if she mentioned a place, I'm not like, okay, well then I'll take you there. No, I do not do that. Now, I'm gonna tell you guys how to avoid these kind of scams, especially you younger guys. I'm gonna tell you how to avoid falling into this trap, not just in the United States of America or other places, but also around the world. Now, coming back to Vibing with Fred, that channel, I have to put a comment on one of the dude's videos about his dating experiences and how he invite one girl, the girl showed up with somebody else, showed up late, was basically just spending up all the stuff and was expecting him to pay and was ignoring him because the girl was just having a conversation with her homegirl that she showed up with, right? Now, dudes, these kind of things might happen a little different in the US. The girl gonna choose a high class restaurant. She might have no real true interest in you. You show up there, you get the feeling that the vibe is off. She'll enjoy herself. She might even order some extra stuff on you. And you left with a bill. Now, the closest experience I had to that was not the girl who kept inviting me to the place in Miami. Turns out that girl later on, she owned a little company that used to bake like muffins and stuff like that. And she was doing very well. Matter of fact, she actually did a birthday party that she catered for one of Dwayne Wade's kids back in the day. Now, this is long before we knew more about Dwayne Wade and before he was with, his current wifey. Needless to say, she was doing all right, right? So I didn't feel like she wanted to use me. But I'll tell you another story. I was in Deerfield, not Deerfield Beach, yeah, Deerfield Beach, and you guys know that area. That's like Fort Lauderdale area. At that time I'm doing fairly well. I'm going out on a couple of dates, and it was this particular girl who owned a little business there where she does like the hot Pilates, right? So for you guys, we're guys, a lot of times we don't know what that means. It means that they go in like the yoga type studio, but they turn up the heat in there. People sweat, and they do all these Pilates type stretching and all these different things. So that's the business this girl owned, right? Girl was driving like one of the little EV cars, but the mistake I made, I never really spoke with her a lot. It was kind of like, okay, we did match online. I used to, date girls when I meet them out in person when I was in America, as well as if I match with them online. No problem, right? Well, I'm gonna tell you the caution to this. No matter which country you go in the world, especially if you use social media to meet the girl, be careful of the ones who you never really spoke with, and she's already pushing it off social media and wanted to meet up right away. I know some of you guys might think at first that that's flattering, right? But I'm gonna tell you the dangers. Just hold on. I'm gonna tell you why, exactly why you want to make sure that you're catching a vibe before you go waste your time and your money, and you could have a good conversation, and you could kind of be sure that you're interested in her, she's interested in you, and that also the photos look like who they're supposed to look like, fellas. Trust me, them filters, hey, ain't nothing nice, as we say in the Caribbean, right? Anyway, so listen, man. Girl drive a little EV. She owned that little thing. She looked nice and sophisticated. So I'm like, all right, bet. Let's meet up. So we met up at this little spot that I actually loved going to, right? Like I said, I never really usually ask the girl where she wants to go. I told her where I normally go. I told her, hey, it's in the same area that your business is in. We gonna meet up over there. So I show up after work. So I still got my work clothes on. So this was like everything on the suits and the tie except the jacket. I left there in the car. She showed up a little late. That was red flag number one, and I hate that. I hate when I schedule a date and the girl shows up late. Now, with that said, as I got to the Caribbean, knowing Caribbean time, I kind of let go of that rule a little bit. But this was just in the United States, right? Now, some of you guys who are from that area, you might have known that there was a place with a big Buddha statue. Very good food. They had a top and a bottom of the building. They had recently opened the bottom part of this building. If you guys know what that is, put the comments down below after this video. All right. Anyway, so I went ahead, showed up. Shorty was late. She eventually showed up, didn't even apologize, started conversation. Now, this is one of these sushi places you can order, one plate, two plates, all the way to 5 or 6 plates if you wanted to. So we're sitting there, we're talking. I'm trying to get her vibe. What does she do? She just kept ordering more and more food. Sake, sushi, this, that. Said she loved the place. She had been there before. And before you know it, I'm still on one little entree that I ordered and a beer. She's on like number 4. And I'm seeing the whole time, like, look at this girl. She just keeps ordering. But I used this opportunity at that moment to figure out who she was and what she was doing, and also business-like, right? I already knew, like, okay, there's no real vibe here. I don't think she's interested in that. I think she's just interested in the food. And at that time, too, I felt like, yeah, she ain't really my type. And I should have made sure, that I tried to vibe with it before meeting up, just in that kind of moment. It just seemed like she just wanted to use somebody for good food and a date, man, at a nice place. I'll be honest with you, because she was familiar with the place that I suggested, right? So now I'm like, all right, man. Well, part of this was on you, but I was interested in what she was doing, how she grew up. So this is the first time when real estate kind of hit my mentality, other than reading a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad back in the day. If you guys haven't heard that book, go look it up on YouTube. It's a great audiobook these days. You could just listen to the whole book online. Matter of fact, I'm going to be releasing some more books for you guys, and they're all going to be audiobooks, by the way, right? No more ebooks that you download and read it. I'm more going to promote for the new environment. Everything is online. Everything is social. Is video. Is audio, right? So I'm going to do audiobooks and maybe a video. Anyway, so she starts to tell me that what her family did was actually her dad owned real estate, but what he would do, he would approach companies and he would only promote his businesses to companies, right? That needed places to rent for their employees, their management, and like their VPs and stuff like that. And I was like, damn, I'm gonna tuck that away in the back of my head to use years later. Now, at that time, Airbnb wasn't out there like that. Some of you guys might know I opened up an Airbnb in Nairobi, Kenya, right? Anyhow, if you guys didn't know, you know. Now, by the time the bill came with this girl, I still remember it because we talking about like at least 10 years ago. And the bill was like $350 between the two of us. Remember, I only had one beer and I had like a small sushi thing, and all the rest was her, right? Well, obviously, I see what was happening. I could have cut it at that time, but it was my first lesson learning that, you know, these kind of women exist out there, and that you would think somebody would think to themselves, well, you know what? Let me be considerate. I don't think this date is not going horrible, but we're vibing, you know, or let me at least be considerate because this guy's going to be paying. And on top of that, I just keep ordering more and more and more and more. And he just ordered his food and a beer. You know what I'm saying? That's what you would think. But this was years before what you guys are complaining about now is more prevalent, right? For whatever reason. Now, the other thing is this girl didn't look like she was, you know, she needed to use a guy for that, but it tells you a lot about her personality and I guess some women's nature, right? That somebody would still do something like that. Thank God at that time too, I had the money. Okay. You know, I paid, charge it to the game. I had always been in long relationships and I was going back out there. So I was starting to be like one of you guys know who you know, you're basically going through it and learning to discern what's what out there at that time. So it's not to say that you couldn't have these experiences I'm going to talk about in foreign countries within the United States, right? You can. So that was two examples. One of them I avoided it, which the girl used to bake for Dwayne Wade and their family. So she basically had a small company doing bakes and cakes and confectionaries, but she kept trying to slide us to one of the most expensive steakhouses, right? And then this girl, I suggested a place. She knew about it. I loved that place myself. Even by the way, I used to go to that place with my ex, and at no time, even me and my ex, we ever got that high on the bill. Even though the place was great, good environment. If it still exists today in the Fort Lauderdale area, West Palm Beach area, then I'm gonna tell you guys the name. You guys could tell me if it still exists. It's called Buddhist Sky Bar. Nice little spot, right? So these things can happen in the United States, and I guess it's becoming more prevalent. Now, story time, DR Sosua. 3 stories. I already told these stories before in the past, so I'm not going to tell the whole story over. I'm just going to give the summary again to get into my point. First girl, hairdresser, own a little salon in Sosua. She comes off work. I'm ready at the beach. She's supposed to meet me there. She shows up. She's got a car. We're going to go back to Puerto Plata. I didn't know it at the time, but this is where I said, okay, I'm going to charge this one to the game because at least she had a car. And she was like, oh, you're going back to Puerto Plata? I was like, yeah, I actually don't live in Sosua. I'm going over there. And she's like, oh, I'll give you a ride. Nothing is free in the DR, by the way. I think I slid that girl 500 pesos because it was going to charge me more for a private taxi to go from Sosua to DR. And she took the money. I wanted to see if she was going to be like, hey, no problem. No, it's all right. I was giving you a ride. I offered. Shorty took the 500. Anyway, she showed up. Showed up with some other girl, but then told me, oh, well, I always usually drop her home. She's one of my family members, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting there like, I made them share their beer, man. I'll be honest with you. And guys, you can't say it's not because I didn't have the money. I just told you I slid the girl 500 pesos, right? So it's not that I ain't had the money with me. I had more money. I just didn't like you set up something with somebody. We had already been talking a couple of days. The person just shows up with somebody else and act like there's nothing to it, right? So that was the first incident. But I'm a quick learner. So I said, okay, this is starting to be similar to my country. See, we've also seen these kind of things in the Caribbean. For you guys who are new to the channel, I was born in Georgetown, Guyana, right? So Guyana is right next to Venezuela, right up top Brazil. So little similar issues like these could happen in all countries also. It's just that I was living in the States for a long time. So I have to like jump back in, right? Like, oh man, okay, I see what's happening. Second incident, um, it was little skinny Haitian girl. She was actually kind of cute. First Haitian girl I had messed with in DR. And she had lived on like the opposite side of Cabarete, not coming towards the Puerto Plata side, the opposite direction. A lot of times what happened to her, the girl won't tell you how far exactly she's living, right? She'll be very general. Why? Because sometimes she wants to do the date with you, but maybe she lives even further away. She's just going to tell you the area, general area where she's around. And you're thinking, all right, well, she's at this place. It should only take her that long to get here, or it's only about this much to get there. And then you're going through all these surprises, right? Okay, fellas. So she told me the general area. The day we were supposed to meet up, she didn't even know that I wasn't in Sosua. What I did was because she tried to give me the general area where she was, I was like, all right, you know what? I didn't tell her this, but all right, I'm gonna use that as an opportunity to head over to Sosua. She's actually going to be meeting me halfway. That way she doesn't have to come all the way to Puerto Plata City in the Dominican Republic, right? We discussed everything. Shorty's supposed to come and meet me there. Something just told me like, yo, only weeks ago you had this little one incident where the girl showed up not by herself. So about 5 hours before we were supposed to meet, I sent a message to Shorty saying, "Oh, and by the way, what time do you think you're gonna get there?" She tells me the time. I said, "All right, great. Show up alone." She's gonna say, she's not gonna say yes or of course or whatever. Matter of fact, she's gonna answer my statement with another question. Why you say that? And I'm like, why would you have to ask that? Just answer, just it's just you and me meeting, right? So you're supposed to show up alone. I'm just saying show up alone. I said, were you not going to show up alone? Oh, well, and there's where it went left, right? So here's me now. I'm like, let me tell you something. We could cancel this right now. I was like, why were you going to show up with somebody else in the first place? Her answer is going to be, well, there was this girl I was going to borrow the money from to go over there. And I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, first you could have just said, hey, you willing to pay for the ride if I get there, whatever it might have been, right? That would have been an option for her. The other option is you could still borrow money from that girl to show up. That don't mean the girl gotta come to the date with you. Well, I know some of you guys will say, well, some of the girls chose those options because they might feel uncomfortable. I had Dominicans try this nonsense before. I've had people in other countries try this nonsense as the excuse why the girl would show up with somebody else. Fellas, don't believe that. It sounds nice. It pulls at your heartstrings, right? And let me tell you why you shouldn't believe that. Let's say it's true. It's a first date. This girl don't already know you. She just want to feel comfortable. What is stopping her from saying, hey, I don't know you yet. Do you mind if we meet in a public place? That's what we would probably say in the States or somewhere else, right? Similarly, she could say, she meet you in a public place anyway, I'm hoping, right? Similarly, she can say, hey, you mind? I don't know you yet. I'm a female, things happen in my country. Do you mind if I bring someone along? You see, my thing is about giving people the option, not taking away people's option. It's disrespectful to come up to a place where as the man, you have to be the one who's spending the money. You're the protector, and you don't have an option. The person is just placing you into a situation. Guys, you might go to a lot of countries where they only deal with cash. We as men, we like respect, right? We don't want to be in a position where you didn't have enough cash on you. There's no ATM around. The ATM is empty. Electricity goes out. All these things happen in other countries, right? It's a different currency. You're not completely sure exactly how much it'll come up to. You're going to a lot of tourist places because you're comfortable there. And all of a sudden, you might be in a position for the guys who are like, yeah, but don't be a brokey, or you didn't have enough money, and that's why. And no, all these different things. First off, it's about respect. Somebody should not be taking advantage of you. You got to have, as a man, you got to have some pride and value in yourself. They don't just accept any and everything. That's the first thing. So a person who's willing to just not tell you about a whole other human being who's going to also help run up that bill, transportation, your ability to go chill with her, the day going nicely. What's her intention with you? This is not like, oh man, this is a vibe. Now we could go share this to a different spot. She's bringing somebody for two intentions. To also make sure it don't go there, it's a perfect excuse. It's kind of like, we're doing the stage, like have somebody on the ringer that if things start to go left, you could tell them, give a quick emergency call that's fake so you could get out the date. That's her get out of jail free card. You understand me? That's one way you could see it. But let's come back to just respect. In which world is that a cool thing to do to somebody? Would you do that to your friend or your family members? Would you show up to a Christmas or a holiday or a barbecue and not tell them you're bringing somebody? You just show up with the person. There enough plates there. If your friend invites you to go out and have some drinks, do you just randomly show up with a random along with you? And if you do, I'm assuming it's just a regular social setting and you're paying for that random person. But let's say somebody, man, hey man, drinks on me, come on through. Do you then tell yourself, word? Okay, hey, let me grab my other friend, my girlfriend, my cousin, whoever, and bring them too? Because the person said, hey, drinks on them. So I may as well add some more people. That's disrespectful, right? So you got to have enough value for your own self to be like, hey, you don't treat me however you want to. I mean, you are now meeting this person. If you set the tone to accept that at the beginning, can you imagine how worse that could potentially get? If it's already a person who clearly doesn't care a damn about you and have no consideration, right? So, all right, fellas. So when the girl said that, I was like, we could cancel this right now. She gave me the whole excuse. I think about like 4 days later, you know, she was like, okay, I'll come alone, and she comes through. Uh, you know, the original story about me and her, you guys have it online. If it's still up on my channel, I forgot what that one was called, but I tried to make the point because that same girl, about not that date, but she ended up coming back to my spot in Puerto Plata. And then, she returned like a week later. We were chilling for a little bit. But one time we went to a Miami bar. For you guys who know DR and my DR content, Dominican Republic, there's a bar in Puerto Plata on the main road by the Malecon, by the ocean. If it's still there, that spot was very popular. We get there and she tried to order a whole bottle of champagne. Didn't even ask. You understand? Some guys missed the point of the video. I was trying to tell them they were looking only at the money. I hate to say, man, a lot of you guys are, tricks. So you view everything through that lens. But the point was, it's about respect and value. Do you go with your friends and just buy whatever? Let's say even as you and your homeboy, y'all decided, all right, we're gonna go to the club. Listen, man, we're gonna split everything tonight. That way we get a section. Does that mean that you gonna order the highest cost thing because you and your boy gonna split it? Nah, you still need to know his budget, your budget. What if he did the same thing? He just decide, well, hey, we splitting this. I'm gonna just order whatever. He didn't even check on your bank account. Well, similar. If a female is not even gonna be like, well, I don't know if you can afford this, not afford this. At least have the respect to ask, right? So for you guys who just buying the 304s, this conversation might not matter to you. But we talking with dudes who are dating. We talking about vibing with Fred. Check out his channel. Go subscribe to him. We talking about people who, legitimately trying to meet somebody and being like, all right, shorty, come on, let's do this date. Even if you guys are flying down there for a week, 2 weeks to whichever country, Brazil, wherever else. And this was happening in Salvador Bahia to vibing with Fred. And I'm like, bro, hate to tell you, he was looking at it, talking about in the video as though it's just, hey guys, be careful when you come to Brazil. I have found that this could happen in any Latin American country because of the culture. I have to say this has not happened to me when I was in Africa. It happens in the Latin Caribbean countries. Now, my country, South America, Guyana, it's kind of half and half. We consider part of the Caribbean. We also consider Latin America. Similar BS happens, right? And that was the point I was making in the comment of vibing with Fred. So that motivated me to do this live. Just as a reminder to you guys, but also to tell you some tips on how to avoid it. Make sure that within the conversation you're slipping in there. When I see you and it's just you and me, or make sure you translate that for you translator using guys. And somewhere in there, make sure you literally put come alone. Trust me, it's gonna save you a lot of headache and maybe some money if you do not make sure that you mention it, right? So that's one of the things I want to say right there. For the young fellows out there going through the thing right now where females just want to, use you for to go to a restaurant or to get some food that night, and you got to be able to read the room, see if this girl has any real interest with you, in you. I have to say also within my travels, no matter which country you're in around the world, I've expanded my countries by the way. By the way, guys, some of it I haven't shown you. So when it comes to Africa, I've now done Kenya, Uganda, South Africa, right? Um, then of course Brazil, Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, Dominican Republic, Bahamas, South America also Chile. That video is up. Didn't stay too long in Chile. I stayed like a month. I ain't really like it there. For you guys who looking for family though, it could be a more family oriented country. And there's some other names out there, like Canada and all this stuff. But bottom line is, can it happen? Yes. Read the room. I would say just to make sure in general you don't get used from a girl who's just bored, right? It might not be that she just only want to use you for her friends and them to have some drinks. This could happen if one girl shows up herself. She ain't really interested in you, but she sees you as the gringo, the foreigner, the guy with the money. This could happen to a rich guy that she uses in her country, right? Make sure you've spoken to this female for a while. If she seems like she is rushing everything towards the date too much, she didn't ask you no questions about yourself. She just knows the basic, most of it you have told her. She probably is not really interested in you, and you are a placeholder and a filler. Guys, my channel was built in telling you guys the other side of what happens out here. I'm not going to be out here selling you a dream that you could never fail. No one could ever lose. Just zoom over here. I don't do that kind of crap, right? Um, as with anywhere in the world, you're a country or not a country. If you don't want to get used by people, try to have some discernment. Don't get lonely too much yourself. Like, well, I just need anybody, somebody. No, man, get your butt up, go to that place by yourself, and most likely you might meet something there. Don't let somebody else waste your time, your value. How many hours you gotta, for the guys who were talking nonsense before in the videos I did in the past about this issue, you gotta look at life this way. Time is money, right? We all say the time is money, but what does this mean? It means even though you're in the United States, Canada, England, you still spent a lot of time, years building up that money, that education, that savings, that whatever it is. So that same amount of money you're looking at, sit down there and calculate how many hours you worked for that. If you right now listen to this and you hate your job, that wasn't nice, easy, earned money that somebody else is now taking advantage of that didn't even work for it, wouldn't work for it, and will not appreciate it. It's ungratefulness, right? It's disrespect for your time, your energy, your efforts, and how hard you might have. Now, if you're outside of your country, the honest truth is most of the world just think that we just happen by that money. It's just so easy. It's just always there and flowing. Right? You know what I mean? And America has sold that throughout the world very easily. You guys are part of selling that. We always talking about, oh, they broke over there. When the truth is, man, these countries, some of the people, yes, not everybody, but some of the people, and a good proportion of the people who can go to places that we are going to in those countries, they have more money than us, man. In this way, they have no debt. They're not paying a 30-year mortgage, right? If they got a house or building in their country, they probably have to pay it off within 5 years. They have nothing but cash flow, pure cash flow, and not a lot of overhead, right? Now, with that said, most of you guys end up talking to the 304s, the person who don't have money, got a little job, getting paid maybe 200, 250, 300 US dollars a month if you do the conversion, right? So that part is true. So it depends on who you're messing with. But I'll say again, depending on the place that you're going to spend that money, they're looking at you potentially as a lick. You want to test a girl? Tell her, hey, you know what? I'm not from here, man. I want to go to a nice little local spot that you would go to. I don't even want to go to them big fancy places. Maybe if it's a country that don't speak the language, as long as it's safe enough, say, hey, what's a typical place with really good food that you and your friends would go to during your lunchtime that's always packed? If that girl only interested in viewing you a certain way, she's going to be uncomfortable with that. If her interest is really just damn, this seemed like a cool person. I want to get to know that person. I really like that place. I really like that food at that place. She's going to tell you her little favorite spot. If her favorite spot is only the gringo spots and the high end spots, she's probably a hunter, as they call it in Africa, right? She's probably only looking for a come up. And you got to ask yourself, does she really go there all the time? How is that her favorite spot? What type of job does she have? What did she do? You see, both of the stories I told you about the girls in America, they were doing okay, right? Think about that. One girl had her own bakery shop, the other one had her own little yoga, Pilates, hot yoga place, right? Now, it don't mean they might not have debt or they're not paying a mortgage or whatever. But the point is, if they wanted to do that on their own, they could have. They were also just trying to take advantage because they're like, I see this guy, I see his job, I know what he's doing, right? And I think he's doing all right. So it's my opportunity to go free to those places that normally I still got to stretch my budget a little bit. Now, the same mentality will exist with women in other countries also. Let's just be honest, right? But the question is, are you getting used and abused, or is there truly an interest? See, I don't even mind spending the money necessarily if I have it. If it's actually genuine interest, a real vibe, I now know what I'm getting for my money. And I ain't talking about taking the girl home, bro. It's not what I'm saying. Even if that was the first date and led nowhere, I could have been like, damn, that was a cool date. Me and her really vibed and drinks were good. The food was excellent. I was cool with that. And maybe there's a possibility of a future with me and this girl, or maybe there's not. It's an equal exchange for my time, money, and respect for my value as a man, right? And for her to get for her value as a woman. So that's one of the ways to avoid it, man. Make sure you're putting out there when me and you are alone, come alone. But also, before that, you got to vet. Make sure you're not falling for the quick date. Okie doke. Let's jump off of here. What's your phone number? The other red flag, third red flag. If you guys are on these dating sites and as soon as you match, girls pushing for your number like she's being the aggressor, it might feel flattering. Watch that. But also, as soon as you exchange, let's say the WhatsApp. If you guys don't know, most of the world use the WhatsApp app. In South Asia, they use some other nonsense. I'm sure you guys from who goes to those countries, you're aware of what I'm talking about. Bottom line is the communication apps, right? If all of a sudden you go back and you check and she's deleted you or unmatched you on that social app, don't even waste your time talking to that girl. She's got a reason why she did that. And most of those girls, they're working. They're just racking it up. They don't want to wait for you to go back and check their profile or take a screenshot of their photos or your conversation that you had ahead of time, right? So she's on an angle already. Stay away from it. If she is pushing you to certain places to meet up, no talk about how she's going to get there. And then when she finds out you're there, she's messaging you talking about you're going to pay for me to get there, right? But she was making it seem like it's the opposite way around, like she'll already be there or whatever. Just look for these red flags and don't be thirsty enough. That's the way to avoid these incidents. If the girl's showing up too late, don't be afraid to get up and just leave. You might say, "Damn, I already spent my time coming here." Go to the place next door, the place down the road from it, and determine to yourself you're still going to have a good time and a good day. That would be my advice about that. Get up and go now. It's not going to go get better. It's going to get worse. Any girl who make you wait 45 minutes, an hour. Listen, Caribbean people are known for being late. African people are known for being late. People come late. But that late is just disrespectful, right? Another thing you could do is make sure that they've left before you so your time don't get wasted. Some people will ghost you out there if you don't pay attention to some of these rules. I've been lucky enough not to get ghosted where I'm supposed to meet up with somebody and I just get ghosted. And that's because I usually make sure I'm talking to them by video. I already know what they look like. I already make sure there's some interest there, all these different things, right? Or One girl I didn't do that with, but I already see she was on BS because she had deleted me off of Tinder or unmatched. I was ready to go and hit a spot, and she kept pushing. Oh, but I work at home too. You work at home? Oh yeah, we could meet. Oh yeah, I live in this neighborhood, which of course that happened to be my neighborhood. That's all right. Listen, I was already going to. I didn't want to meet up with her because I had a chance to already talk to her. But I said, listen, all right, I was going to work today. I was going to this little Nigerian spot that I just found out I wanted to try their food. Guys, you see what's important here? I already had intent on being there. I'd already planned it. I was already getting ready for it when she was pushing, and I knew I was going to that place. So I said, all right, listen, when I get to that place, I'll let you know because I want to work there and I want to make sure that they could actually have the Wi-Fi speed that I need, this, then the third. If they have all those things, I'll message you and you could meet me there. Because I wasn't too sure with this girl, right? When it came to like videoing, all of a sudden she can't video. Oh, like you just told me you work from home also. Well, you can't video? All right, cool. You know, it's not like we're videoing on her laptop, right? And she didn't say I'm working on on WhatsApp from my house, right? So just these little things, fellas. So I wanted to drop this podcast just to tell you that yeah, you got to be careful with these kind of things, not just in the U.S. where you're the free lunch, you're a free meal. Yes, it might be cheaper than if it happens in the U.S. So these things can happen. Make sure you just pay attention. Don't be thirsty. Vets, right? Um, Never let them suggest the place. Do not do that. And I know when you go abroad, a lot of times anyway, the places you'll be suggesting is the quote unquote gringo spots, is the foreigner spots. And that's fine, right? Just know what you're doing though. Hopefully you've been that place before. Um, you just keep control of the situation as much as you can, right? That's what I would tell you. Make sure they're coming along by saying it. And you might say to yourself, why you got to tell somebody that? Exactly for that reason. The mentality and the thought process is not the same as where you're from. The culture is not the same. You got to understand that in many countries, when these guys are inviting people, they know that could happen to them, even guys in their own countries. So they don't do certain things because they're aware it could happen, or they put their safeguards and rules in place for their own women. So just like how you got little rules in place and things to avoid the issues in your country, you got to do the same when you're in these foreign countries. Some of this, some of you guys might still end up in the situations, but hopefully it's going to trigger what I say if you end up in that situation. You can be like, damn, I remember that. Oh, I see what's happening. And you could adjust accordingly in that moment because you heard it on the Richest Method podcast. All right. All right, guys. So actually, I'm uploaded a video already, and it's going to be premiering today, probably in about the next less than an hour if I don't set it to visible right now. So check out the video. Um, Make sure that you, at the end of the videos, you select the playlists where you could just watch. It'll just automatically keep playing one video after another from my channel. And you could just go all the way through all the countries, Colombia, DR, Brazil, whatever I removed where it was like separate playlists. So enjoy. Also, I'm now on Patreon. So make sure you go over to Patreon, look for Rich's Method Media, and you could join free. As I get the videos up to date, you guys are gonna have your paid membership videos out there. So just expanding everything instead of getting rid of the channel. All right. So, and I got some surprises coming up in the future on this channel for you guys. So stay tuned to that. There's always changes in life and with my channel. So instead of getting rid of it, I decided to, just do it a little different in the future. But let me get there first. But for right now, Patreon, Rich's Method Media. Make sure you go over to payhip.com/Rich's Method Media again. Grab some of the ebooks. We'll be releasing some more of those also. All right. And I won't be doing these podcasts. Check you guys on the next one.